I grew up in a block of flats, opposite another block of flats, opposite another block of flats. Mum and Dad were divorced when I was in primary school, so when we was into secondary school, my sister and I were like latchkey kids. We used to come home, Mum was doing some kind of training somewhere. It seemed like she was never there. So I was a resentful, bitter, horrible young man, basically. I tattooed myself. Yeah, I was 13 then. I suppose I put that as because there was a deficiency of it, rather than the other one, which would be hate, obviously. I think I felt hate, but wanted to show that, you know, I wasn't all bad. It had a big impact on the school. For me, it just seemed, there's no point, just do what you want to do, have fun.
So what did you do?
I used to sometimes go in, sign in and then go. Or sometimes I just wouldn't bother going at all, and just hang around with those also doing the same thing, getting into trouble, doing a bit of thieving. Yeah.
It was not good being middle class in a Cockney sort of Hackney environment or Islington environment. I was terribly bullied for about 3 years. My parents were very sort of beatnik, jazz people. Mum went sort of a bit bonkers after she and Dad split up. It was a really difficult time. She got quite involved in the drug scene. It was not a good time in particular.
What was Tabitha like? I seem to remember her as being quite clever. She was quite clever. She was also in the posh group as well. All those... It's ridiculous, isn't it? Either the posh or the whatever. There wasn't a name for anyone else. It was just the posh, and they weren't part of anything. I don't know. It's
And you were one of them.
And I was one of them. Yes, desperately trying to be some of the others. It's crazy, isn't it?
You were okay as long as you were sort of, you know, with your group of friends. It was if you were walking along a corridor, you know, changing lessons. We had 3 staircases spaced out along the corridor. So, I mean, I got to the stage where if I saw somebody coming that I didn't want to have to come across, I would go down the earlier flight of stairs, just to avoid confrontation, really. It could be quite a scary place.
I found myself on duty at the main door of the school virtually every morning, checking people on time. This was ostensibly to check that pupils are on time, but in fact it was just as much, if not more, teachers being on time. Well, there were a few sort of just slack habits with the staff. I mean, going out for a drink at lunchtime, no thank you, but I couldn't stop it. And I had a heavy union case. I was hauled up at County Hall for one, who'd set fire to his classroom curtains, and he'd been drinking very heavily. And one of my duties was to basically check him every lunchtime and smell his breath.
Some of them were really daunting, old-style type teachers. One of the teachers was being a bit of a... Well, he was always a bit of a bully. There was a lot of kids got together and decided that maybe it was time for a bit of comeuppance. He ended up locking himself in the office, so we shoved fire extinguishers, hoses under the door and set them all off. I think even Margaret had a bit of a task with me on her hands.
But you get used to it, yes.
Head Margaret Maiden was determined to win round all her pupils with a more progressive teaching style.
Basically, start with an encouraging and friendly style, and I think that's what we're trying to be like in the school. Informal but not sloppy. I tried for my first 2 years to appoint a head of music because I knew it was important. And frankly, nobody was coming through. And then a music inspector came in to see me and said, well, you haven't had much luck so far getting a head of music, but I do have this rather strange person. Now, you are a risk taker, aren't you? And I sort of ummed and ahed and thought something fishy is happening here. He said, I can't get him placed anywhere else. Nobody's willing to take the risk, but believe me, he's got really terrific skills and knowledge, and he's like a sort of Pied Piper once he gets going.
He looked like a rocker reject. You know, he used to wear the tightest jeans he could possibly get into, or cords at that point. He used to smoke like the clappers, no matter what Mrs. Maiden used to say. He used to smoke in class. We're all pretty sure that he used to drink in class, because he always seemed two sheets to the wind, basically.
If you try that when you're doing those sounds again, just in that point, and over-exaggerate the sound. In fact, feel it now.
He obviously wasn't part of the establishment. He used to refer to a lot of the other teachers as wankers.
Bum-ba-da-dum, 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 bum-ba-da-dum.
He was a bit risky, and he got up the backs of a lot of teachers. I mean, there were 3 kind of quite elderly ladies sitting in the staff room, and he used to sort of waft by and say, "How's it in the knackers yard?" You know, I mean, just to upset people, basically.
I think because Alan was a bit against the system himself, it kind of made all those kids that were as well kind of like more at ease, because, you know, there he is saying, "I'm not going to pack up smoking," and he'd sit there playing the piano, smoking away, and he'd shout and swear, you know, and it's like, "You can't swear at us." "Yep, I can." You know, and it's like, okay, cool.
Cornflakes. Try putting some dynamite in them.
I was an obnoxious, self-opinionated shit.
OK, I want it to disappear.
I'm not a good team player at all. I have a vision, I see something and I know I'm right. And so I go for it. I wanted to get the students actually involved with the actual sound to see how it worked. Now that to me was, that was quite incredible.
We're all musically talented, it's just that nobody's there to actually inspire our feelings for sound. Sound is an amazing thing.
Music. It was escape for me, the music. It was where we were allowed to really be who we were, and encouraged to be that way as well. I remember we were asked as a project to write a piece of music, but not using notes.
You just kind of compose a piece of music from anything, really. Say a brick wall over there, you could kind of put that into music. You could change a brick wall and put it into music.
We used to go round the school hitting the walls and listening to what sound it made and things like this. Most bizarre stuff for us. But it was... it never felt like learning music at all. It just felt like discovery. The music's department was all about discovery in quite a wide sense of the word.
He was very charismatic, sort of, and he did have a little set that he thought were the bee's knees, the sort of, who were very talented people, and I so wanted to be one of them, and I so wasn't. I was sort of on the outskirts of it. Do you know what I mean? And I really wanted to be one of that set, but it didn't happen. I had Sibylla, who was incredibly glamorous.
Hello? Okay. When you've got your sound or whatever, and you write down or draw it, whatever it is.
We used to sort of hang around the music room, break times, lunchtime. We used to smoke, talk about all sorts of stuff, just hang around. But it was, you know, it was a place where you could go and you could be yourself, and it was relaxed. You weren't worrying about getting into trouble.
She was one of the school beauties. I fancied her something rotten, I seem to remember.
I mean, I suppose I thought Simon was quite posh, really. You know, he was sort of from one of the very big Georgian houses up, you know, on Upper Street, behind Upper Street, and he always struck me as being somebody quite academic and perhaps a bit shy.
Sibylla was always going to be out of my reach. I think I realised that. But I fancied Wendy Brewer, Trudy Gunner. She was singing. She sang on it, I believe. Trudy Gunner, I thought, was great.
I was very good friends with Trudy and Wendy, but I was also sort of on the fringes of the middle class set. You know, I wasn't cool enough at all. Simon was cool and good looking, and, you know, so and kind and just nice company, good company. I had a crush on him at some point, and he was the first boy to ever take me to the cinema, and it was just as friends. We went to the cinema as friends, and we went to see Grease, but I just was like, and he bought me an ice cream, and I thought it was the best thing ever in the history of the world, because I did have a soft spot for him, but I was too uncool to go there. Whereas now, I would have so jumped on him.
Did we? Possibly, yes. Okay. I think I went 3 times with 3 different people. Sorry.